This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thank you so much for joining us. I'm Ephraim Graham. We begin with a little progress on ending the partial government shutdown. President Donald Trump and congressional leaders plan to try again Friday after their meeting at the White House didn't succeed in producing a budget agreement that would end a partial government shutdown. That as a new Congress is sworn in today. House Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi says budget legislation for the new Congress will not include money for the president's border wall. The president says the shutdown will continue for as long as it takes.
Could be a long time, or it could be quickly. Could be a long time. It's too important a subject to walk away from. We're asking for 5.6, and somebody said 2.5. No, look. This is national security we're talking about.
Our Charlene Aaron is here. She is following this story today. So what is keeping the two sides from reaching a deal and reopening the government?
It is really, really complicated, Ephraim. Well, the sticking point has been the president's insistence on $5.6 billion in funding for his border wall, and the Democrats are not likely to come to terms with that amount. Democratic leaders have scheduled a pair of votes on a package of deals to end the shutdown and give Congress more time to negotiate a deal with the White House. But it's really kind of up in the air. We'll see how it all plays out.
We're waiting and seeing. With Democrats now taking control of the House, how difficult will it be for the presidents to get funding for the wall?
It's going to be very, very difficult now that the House is going to be controlled by Democrats. This new Congress sworn in today. But Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi says they will quickly pass legislation to reopen the government without funds for the border wall. That gives you a signal right there. She's told NBC's Today Show that we can go through back and forth with this whole thing, but no, no, no. How many times can we say no? So that kind of gives you an idea of where she is and where things are going to go. So it's going to be really sticky.
Very little movement indeed.
Yes, indeed.
Charlene Aaron, thank you so much for the latest developments. You can, of course, stay with CBN News. We'll give you the latest on the shutdown and on today's Faith Nation program. That's going to air at 6 o'clock Eastern right here on the CBN News channel. A former New York Times editor says the paper has become, quote, unmistakably anti-Trump. Jill Abramson led the newspaper from 2011 to 2014. She recently called out the New York Times and its current editor, Dan Backett, for making the publication's coverage of the president biased. She writes, some headlines contain raw opinion, as did some of the stories that were labeled as news analysis. She went on to say the company even benefited from the negative coverage. She also says given its mostly liberal audience, there was an implicit financial reward for the Times in running lots of Trump stories, almost all of them negative. They drove big traffic numbers. Abramson says the same is true of the Washington Post. Here now is a quick look at some of the other big stories we're following for you today in the CBN Newsroom. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo visited Brazil for the inauguration of the country's new president, Jair Bolsonaro. Pompeo met with him Wednesday at the presidential palace in Brazil. The newly inaugurated president is a fan of President Donald Trump and rose to power on an anti-corruption and pro-gun agenda. At a news conference, Pompeo said Bolsonaro's election creates a transformative opportunity for the two countries. U.S. Roman Catholic bishops began a week-long retreat that will focus on prayer and spiritual reflection over the church's sexual abuse scandals. Organizers say the meeting will not focus on policies. Meanwhile, clergy abuse survivors are calling on the Pope to remove a Chicago cardinal from his role in an upcoming summit in Rome next month. Cardinal Blaise Kupik has been directly implicated in concealing child sex crimes by other clerics. At least 500 predators were not reported by Cardinal Kupik and his fellow Illinois bishops. Saudi state media says suspects in the slaying of journalist Jamal Khashoggi have attended their first court hearing. The state-run Saudi press agency says prosecutors plan to seek the death penalty for 5 of the 11 who were at the hearing. Khashoggi, a columnist for the Washington Post, was killed October 2nd at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, Turkey. He had written columns critical of Saudi Arabia's powerful crown prince, Mohammed bin Salman. Saudi Arabia initially denied Khashoggi was killed, but acknowledged his slaying weeks later. President Donald Trump's timetable for pulling U.S. troops out of Syria is 4 months instead of 30 days. Still, many fear the withdrawal may not only upset the Middle East balance of power, but as CBN's Chris Mitchell reports, it would also abandon key U.S. allies, the Syrian Kurds.
U.S. boots may remain on the ground a bit longer in Syria, But President Trump's surprise announcement pushed other countries to act. Turkey bolstered its border with military equipment, while Syria positioned troops and weapons outside the Kurdish-held city of Manbij. Both countries feel threatened by the Kurds. Although the group voted for an independent state in 2017, most countries have refused to recognize it. CBN News has learned the Kurdish group allied with the U.S. is under pressure from Russia to strike a deal within days. This Kurdish official fears what might happen after a pullout.
The geopolitical rivalry between Iran and Turkey, with the help of Russia, obviously, probably it's either going to put or will empower the Assad regime, or it's going to be Iran who is going to really benefit. That's also put a lot of security risk for the Israel as well.
That potential led to a New Year's Day meeting between Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. The pullout raises a number of dangerous scenarios. Turkey may follow through on threats to attack the Kurds. Russia may try to take the rich oil fields in northeastern Syria. And the Iranians still want a straight-line route through Syria to the Mediterranean.
From the Israeli perspective, the major concern is Iran. Iran is likely to misread President Trump and misread America and think that America is leaving because it was defeated. And now they can go in and take over Syria.
Former Israeli ambassador to the UN, Dory Gold, says nations like Iran believe their historic empires allow them to conquer faraway lands. In this case, Iran claims Syria as its 35th province.
And therefore, the strength of America, even in a little corner of Syria, is pivotal to prevent a deterioration in the Middle East.
Earlier, Senator Lindsey Graham met with President Trump and said the president understood the number of complicated issues surrounding the pullout.
You got the Kurds that we need to be concerned about. They stepped up when nobody else would, and he's very aware of that problem.
In addition to the Kurds, retired General Jerry Boykin tells CBN News the U.S. pullout threatens thousands of Christians in the region.
They've all congregated there, so there could be a Christian and a Kurdish genocide up in that area if we don't leave measures in place to help protect them.
It's becoming clear that crucial decisions over the next few weeks will likely affect the fate of these Christians and even the future of the Middle East. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
A Palestinian American man was sentenced to life in prison by a Palestinian court for the crime of selling a home in the old city of Jerusalem to a Jewish-Israeli organization. According to the Jerusalem Post, the Palestinian Grand Criminal Court found Issam Akel guilty of attempting to cut off a part of the Palestinian land and adding them to a foreign country. Akel reportedly lives in East Jerusalem. He was arrested in October by the Palestinian Authority. U.S. Ambassador David Friedman urged the Palestinian Authority to release Akel, who is an American citizen with Israeli residency. And you can find the full story at our website at cbnnews.com. A recent YouTube video of children having a conversation with a pro-choice activist who had an abortion is sparking controversy. CBN's Mark Martin has this story.
The woman who started the hashtag Shout Your Abortion movement, Amelia Bono, is seen in the video talking with kids about her abortion experience and sharing her views on the issue. The organization High Hope Kids published the video late last week. It's entitled Kids Meet Someone Who's Had an Abortion. In it, Bono compares having an abortion to a bad dentist appointment and a bodily procedure that's kind of uncomfortable. She also tells one child that she believes abortion is all part of God's plan.
When you have an abortion, what exactly do you do to have the abortion?
You go to the doctor and they put this little straw inside of your cervix and then inside of your uterus, and then they just suck the pregnancy out. And it was like a crappy dentist appointment or something. I think it's all part of God's plan.
Now, CBN News reached out to Bono for comment on the video, and we also reached out to High Hope Kids for comment, the organization that published it and whose YouTube channel has more than 2 million subscribers. They have not yet responded to our inquiry.
Coming up, helping some of the hardest hit communities in America. See how one group says their plan is much different from the other. More traditional urban leaders in Washington.
When you give, smiles grow bigger. When you care, homes are happier. When you comfort, the hurt goes away. When we all come together to love, miracles happen.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. My husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids, do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes and Google Play now.
As the new Congress convenes this week, there is no doubt many battles ahead for both sides. The Center for Urban Renewal and Education, or CURE, is in Washington, ready to work to help hard-hit communities, but says it sees things differently from the traditional efforts of the Congressional Black Caucus. So, Reverend McCoy, you say for the past 15 years, the left has used the NAACP and the Black Caucus for its own purposes.
Well, it absolutely has. And unfortunately, while there's been a lot of people that have caused to go into the Congressional Black Caucus over time and really tried to maybe initially do some good service, right now they're just being pawns in a hand that really is not playing well to the Black community at all, I don't think. And really you have to look at what principles are going to work in some of these communities that really need to see change. And that's why we're advocating for things like the opportunity zones, the urban revitalization issues that are happening with the current administration, and really trying to see what can make a difference in our communities for the long term, not just a political mantra. Because right now, the CBC is just poised to just revenge and to take attack back to the current president's administration.
How is CURE's agenda, you would say, different?
We already know it doesn't take a brain surgeon like a Dr. Carson to figure out in our communities, we are looking around, and many of these CBC leaders who have been elected for years have been leading these some of these urban areas that have had blight for some time, and they said, you know, how can we change it? If we're looking at CURE, we're looking at fighting poverty and restoring dignity through faith, freedom, and personal responsibility. We believe that that's a message that we carry, and that we want to make sure that we are doing that. We believe it's a collaborative effort between the church, the government, as well as private businesses, and trying to figure out how can we best bring what I would call these conservative principles as well as these values and merge them together to see real change in our communities across the country.
When it comes to this administration and previous, do you think the president's policies have done more for Black communities?
I look at it, when you sign up to be president, and when you look at our communities across the country, it's not an easy task to say, hey, we're going to just totally change this and make all of this different and make it great again. I think it's a hard, arduous task to say, what can we do? And if you look at it, I think he's given the most thought to it. I think even in his current, when he did his inaugural speech, he talked about it quite honestly. It hurt a lot of people when he talked about it because it wasn't comfortable. It wasn't the words that you want to hear somebody say, well, you know, what do you have to lose? Your communities are like war zones anyway. But if you go to some of our communities, anybody who's Black would understand that's kind of true. some of those areas that we live in and we work and play and understand, there's a reason why they look that way. If I look at Baltimore City, which I know intimately and know well, if I look at Chicago, which we just did a summit there not too long ago, the Uber driver, they were saying, look, are you sure you want to go in this community? But there are people that are concerned about the community, that live there, and then want to see change. We'll be back there again soon. I think with the current policy that he's worked on, obviously the economic conditions and the wealth creation, I shouldn't say wealth creation, but those income gaps have begun to lower. The typical GDP and the percent of growth has only been about 2% for years. And it has not gone over 3% in quite some time. This current president has actually gotten our growth and our economy growth at over 3%, which means,
Quick,
yeah.
Let me ask this question because we're just about out of time. What is the greatest need now for these communities?
Oh, well, I'm going to say it. If I'm talking to CBN, I'm going to say we need prayer. But I say that honestly, because we need to see things change. People's lives have to have hope in them. And our deal is about breeding hope via policy, because we know if you change laws, you change lives. But the major thing is that we got to see hope being restored in these communities. We really need to see a great awakening, which I've been talking about for years. But also at the same time, we need to see that collaborative issue of the church, the communities, the pastors, the leaders, and the business coming together to say, look, we're going to get over the political lefts and rights and centers, and we're going to try to move this thing forward, because people's lives hang in the balance. I look at it, oftentimes we said years ago, the next black doctor and maybe cure for cancer is in these communities. The next person who could really change the plight of America are probably living in some of these communities. And we need to give hope in those communities so that we can make them livable again, as according to Isaiah.
Reverend Derek McCoy with the Center for Urban Renewal and Education, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Still ahead, the good bacteria in your gut can really make a difference for your health. How you can help it next in our Build a Better Gut series. Stay with us.
Parents, the Superbook Bible app is a great way to get your child reading the Bible, because in today's busy world, we can use some help. The free Superbook Bible app has fun stuff your kids will love. They'll have a blast learning the Bible, playing great games, watching cool videos, discovering heroes in the Bible. They'll have fun while they learn God's Word. The Superbook Kids Bible app, available now.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
We had 4 jobs that didn't go right, but we didn't waver in our faith.
That's when God put on my heart that we needed to do the well.
Within a couple of days, we got an insurance refund check that we had no idea was coming.
And here we are, this year, it's just boom.
You go out and help other people and you get rewarded for it.
Get Pat Robertson's latest teaching, Miraculous Blessings.
Throughout this week, we have shown you how the bacteria in your gut affects every aspect of your health in our Build a Better Gut series. Fortunately, there is a way to get these little creatures in your body working for you. Medical reporter Lori Johnson shows you where you can find good bacteria.
The good news is we can turn things around and build a better gut in 3 easy steps. Get rid of the bad stuff, put good bacteria in our gut, then feed it right so it grows. Microbiome researcher Dr. Jay Bajaj recommends making a direct deposit by eating foods that contain these living, healthy bugs.
The things that can help healthy gut microbes are diets that have fermented products, and by fermented products, I do not mean beer.
Fermented food contains good bacteria called probiotics. You can find it throughout your grocery store if you know where to look. Kimchi and other fermented vegetables are in the produce department. There's also kombucha, a fermented tea, and in the dairy department, kefir drinks and yogurt, the right kind of yogurt.
You have to be very careful when you look at the nutritional information that you do not take yogurt that is so high in sugar that it actually negates the beneficial effect of the microbes in it.
In addition to food, probiotic supplements can also help build levels of good bacteria. According to Dr. Gerard Mullen, author of The Gut Balance Revolution, you must choose carefully because all supplements aren't always the real deal.
If I'm in the store, I would go more towards where there's a refrigerator. For some people, 10 billion a day is fine. For others, 30 billion is the sweet spot. Yet if some people are really sick and they need it as a therapeutic rescue, like you have people with what they call ulcerative colitis who are quite ill, and they found that those who took 1 trillion or more bacteria a day of a very highly purified brand called VSL3, they actually were able to induce remission when they failed even heavy doses of medications.
Researcher Dr. Gail Kreshe says the next step is to take care of the good bacteria living in our body.
I like to think of the gut microbiome. You have trillions of pets living inside your intestinal tract. And just like you would feed your cat or your dog, you want to give them good food. You also need to think that when you're eating, you're not just fueling yourself, you're fueling all those little pets living inside of you. So you need to feed them what they want to be fed. And if you do, then they'll behave properly for you, right?
And that's where prebiotics come in, namely fiber.
All of these have different forms of fiber, right? And when you consume different vegetables, each of them will have predominance of one fiber versus the other.
Same with fruit, but instead of reaching for old reliables like bananas, which contain high sugar, try berries instead. And the list goes on. Radishes, jicama, dandelion greens, whole grain oatmeal, flaxseed, and beans all give you fiber.
Often I'm asked, how do you recommend people eat? And I say it's really simple. You can ask yourself a question. Did God make this or did man make this? Did God make a Twinkie? No. Did God make an avocado? Yeah.
And one of the best things we can do for our kids is start them off on the right road to a healthy gut.
Really about the age of 2 to 3 is where that child's microbiome is more reflective of what you'll see as an adult. Primarily, the colonization of the gut microbiota occurs through the delivery process.
The factor is whether you're born through the vaginal canal, natural childbirth, and we acquire the maternal flora, or C-section, which has skin microbes, which can be more harmful for us. And it's harder and slower to develop the microbiome when you're born by C-section.
Breast milk actually has probiotics and has prebiotics in it as well. And formula companies realize this and try to mimic breast milk as much as possible. And they may have some formulations that have added prebiotic and probiotic, but it's not enough. It's not like that entire composition that you get, what you find in breast milk.
Then as kids get older, keep them on the straight and narrow by exposing them to diverse good bacteria in solid food and nature.
Our body gets exposed to bacteria and our immune system develops around that, and that sets your lifetime immune system up. So the more exposure you have early on, the easier it is for you to go through and get exposure to those things later in life and not have a bad reaction to them. We all grew up playing in dirt, and it didn't hurt us, and it probably kept us healthy and having a strong immune system.
And you can find more health news right here on the CBN News Channel with Lori's Healthy Living series. It airs Tuesday nights at 9:30 and then again throughout the week, or on demand anytime at cbnnews.com. Coming up, the amazing story of a young boy with a big heart. You won't believe what he did with his life savings.
God Almighty is a God of blessing. He always wants to bless His people. But how do you get that blessing? And what principles will unlock that secret?
In Miraculous Blessings, Pat Robertson shows you how to open the floodgates of God's awesome blessings in your life.
In order to have a blessing, you've got to be blessable.
Discover what the Bible has to say about God's covenant of blessing, the laws of blessing, and what are the hindrances to the blessings of God.
The words of Jesus, they are as valid as the law of gravity, and if we follow those laws, we will be blessed.
You'll see amazing true stories of everyday people whose lives were rescued and transformed by God's miraculous blessings.
But even the doctors acknowledged that this had to be a miracle.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or visit CBN.com to become a CBN partner and get miraculous blessings today.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. My husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
A little boy learns about the needs of the homeless and how people help them through a YouTube video and told his dad he wanted to do the same. So 9-year-old Nathan Simons of Rock Island, Illinois, went to the bank with his dad, Ethan, and took out most of his savings, leaving just enough to keep the account open.
20, 40, 60.
I'm donating most of my money from my savings account to a Christian care down at the homeless shelter. I mean, it feels good. I wish I could have it myself, but I have to think about other people sometimes.
With his dad matching him dollar for dollar, they loaded his cart with items on a list he got from the Christian Care homeless shelter.
Yeah, you did a good thing today, my son. Not many people can say that they emptied their savings account and went shopping for a homeless shelter.
Nathan told reporters he has a sister in the Marines and wanted to make sure vets at the shelter are taken care of. He also says he may do this again or start volunteering at the shelter. Beautiful, beautiful. Well, time now for your Thursday Thankful, and I approach this day as the perfect opportunity to express and show gratitude. Consider this prayer. Father, thank you for doors opened and doors closed. But I know you know best even when the door is closed. And to that, I add this. A closed door moves you one step closer to a new one, possibly an open window. With that word, make this a thankful Thursday and do it on purpose. That is going to conclude this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Thank you so much for watching. Make it a thankful Thursday. Bye-bye, everybody.